Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle. Sadly, we are not in the FA Cup, and I suspect that may be the source of some discussion, along with the standard of our defending on Saturday. It's Walsall, we go back in the league, and one of Luke's biggest hallmarks has been his ability to bounce straight back from a defeat. So we'll be analysing our hopes and aspirations ahead of Saturday. Joining me tonight, Mr. Stallard, and we will also be joined at about 7:30 this evening by a special guest from Montenegro. Okay, he's quite funny and quite humorous, so we shall be seeing him in the second part of the programme. I suspect the first part of the programme might be a little bit more serious, and one of the questions I would be asking all of our flock this evening. We've all seen the manner of the defeat and the exit out of the FA Cup on Saturday, on Friday night even. How much did it affect you? How much did it bother you? How much did it upset you? Speaking from my own perspective, it's probably one of the, I guess, wearing my fans hat rather than, professional football hat. It's probably one of the most frustrated I've been for quite a long period of time. I can't help but think what might have been. A lot of people point the fingers at the defensive capabilities of the side, and clearly with good reason in the way in which the man of the goals were conceiving. But I'll throw one out to everyone and see what you think. How much do you apportion responsibility for the defeat to Luke Williams? And I'm talking in respect of the team that he selected on Saturday. Was that on Friday? Was that for you a side that maximised the chances of getting through to the next round of the FA Cup? Or was it one that was almost playing Russian roulette with beating a team from a higher division, albeit, got to say, they didn't look fantastic on Friday night. Cash repercussions for the club, I would estimate it's cost them probably a minimum of £100,000 with gate receipt or percentage of wins on Friday, which was 65 grand plus gate receipts from what would have been, I imagine, certainly a five-figure crowd against Wrexham. All your thoughts and views on that, please. Evening, Stel, how are we?
Evening. Yep, not bad, thanks.
Right, we'll come on to you in a minute. What are you composing your thoughts on that? Not that you wouldn't have expected me to be asking that. Plenty of messages already coming through. Jurgen Halligan has a spare ticket for Harrogate. 16 quid. Dive in quick if you want it. If not, Jurgen will be handing it back. So get on the message boards to get first dibs on that. Notts have completely sold out of the games in of tickets for that Harrogate game. Evening all from Martin Shipley. Can't imagine what we'll be discussing tonight. Again, Luke Beardsley. Evening will be nice to hear some balanced reviews on the game rather than the Twitterati. AKA brackets Paul Mace, close brackets. No, Luke does exist. He's not a Twitter spam bot. He's down at the Virgin Active Gym. I see him most days. Paul Huskerson. Evening all. Dave Woolley. Evening guys. Jurgen Halligan. Keystone Cops defending maybe. Evening all from Stephen Newton. John Collins. Yep. The McSwegan Tartan. Don't know whether Stowe played in that one or not, actually. I can't remember the exact year. Royston, evening all. We're still shell-shocked after Shrewsbury, or are we over it now? Evening all from Shane Walker. David Dawes, evening all. After watching Notts for 60 years, I have not seen much worse defending. Jurgen Halligan, team was good enough, showed by Shrewsbury only having 3 shots on target. No fault in Luke Williams. Individual performances let us down, says Chris Gosling. Evening all. Alcazar 35. Rather glad we did not make the 170-mile trip from Newcastle. Alcazar, you part-timer. The side was good enough, says Ian G, to get a result against a weak side. Our defence let us down 100%. Evening from Cosmic Nelly. Luke Beardsley, I think that starting 11 was more than good enough to win the game, but a first-minute mistake led them to sit back instantly. Sanderson, a positive. Got a funny little story about James Sanderson as well, Jurgen. Still, right. Floor is yours. Who's to blame for us not being in the third round of the FA Cup?
Well, individual errors, comedic individual errors defensively. Yeah, I understand what you're saying about, excuse me, Luke Williams changing the team for the cup games, but he's done that since he's come to the club.
But we've only won, Stel. We've lost 5 out of 6 cup games.
Yep. But to put some context on that, I would argue that the EFL Trophy games, I think that's your chance to shuffle the pack anyway.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, nobody's really crying into the milk are they, about being out of that. The League Cup, first week of the season, we weren't up to speed after that Sutton defeat against a decent Lincoln team, got outplayed. So, and then we won the first round of the FA Cup, and then it's just Friday. And you're talking about Friday is three of the most, well, certainly in one game, three of the most calamitous sort of errors you are going to see. I mean, and so much so that it didn't help the game on a Friday, did it? But the BBC Sport website had a sort of a sarcastic montage of the goals, didn't they? And sort of putting them together as a "can you believe this defending?" So look, when it comes to Luke Williams, and I think some people have mentioned it there, we dominated the game in terms of the ball. Didn't create loads of chances, but we scored 2 goals. We had a couple of other chances as well. Shrewsbury didn't get a kick other than the ones we gifted to them. And in the last sort of hour, Paul, just coming on here, I've done a little bit of research, but I've looked back. Last 4 games, we've conceded 10 goals. Okay, 8 of them, we've had possession of the ball. So we talk about teams not having to do too much. 8 of the last 10 goals, we've had possession of the ball. We concede possession of the ball, whatever, through ridiculousness of Friday night, just sloppy passing, misplaced passing, whatever. And within 2 passes, maximum, we've conceded 8 goals. So from a practical point of view, Friday nights were just ridiculous mistakes, a slip. We all saw it. We don't need to analyse that particularly, the 3 goals. But yeah, 8 out of the last 10 goals we've conceded have come from when we've had possession of the ball and within 2 passes, it's in the back of our net. So there's something that you go, okay, A, we're not taking care of the ball well enough at times. And B, on that transition, are we switched on? Are we concentrating? Are we doing our job defensively as to, okay, if we do lose the ball, are we tight? Are we in a position to at least hold the opponents up? But like I say, and I could go back further, but I didn't. I just had time to have a look at the last 4 games. But yeah, we've conceded 10 goals. There was only the shot from outside the area, Crawley, where they broke up the pitch. You could argue we were a bit slow to close them down, but they made that themselves. And I think it was one of the Wimbledon goals was we didn't have the ball, I think. But yeah, 8 out of the last 10 goals have come from us having the ball and conceding possession. So that's the practical side of we know we want to play out from the back. We know that's how Luke wants us to play. But that's the difference in playing against better teams in League Two level, and obviously Shrewsbury League One, who will close you down and punish you for your mistakes. But also you've got to take care of the ball better, and we've become, I think, a little bit sloppy. A couple of times on Friday night, the ball over the top, the lads offside. We've got this rule, obviously, where the linesman's flag doesn't go up immediately until they become active, and we stop. We stopped. Aidan Baldwin did it in the first half and got away with it with a fantastic last-ditch tackle, but he did exactly the same thing. So, for me, again, I always come back to decision-making, and I think we are just lapses in concentration, and our decision-making has been poor, really poor at times, and it's cost us. And we've conceded, everybody knows we've conceded too many goals this season, but that's just I've just had a chance to have a look at that, just for coming on here. 8 of the last 10 goals have come from within 2 passes of us conceding the ball or being closed down or having the ball take off us.
Interesting stuff. Look, my view might be slightly different. And I ask the question rather than make some grand assumption. I think when a lot of people saw the team, clearly a lot of our offensive capabilities were taken out, weren't they? If you look at our goal scoring this season, Macca, 14, McGoldrick, who I think the manager said was injured, which is why he wasn't considered, Crowley with 8 or 9 this season. So a lot of the goals capability, Jody Jones, arguably one of our most creative players, was kind of all taken out. And just on a personal note, and I entirely take on board the point, it was our first choice defenders that ultimately made some individual mistakes that cost us the goal. But I wasn't quite sure whether we were, as a club, almost up for it. You know, when you saw the Shrewsbury fans, 700 of them, come all the way over from Shrewsbury on a Friday night. Not an easy trip. I remember when I was getting my ticket on the Thursday, I was talking to the ticket office guys, and how many's coming? Don't know. How many Shrewsbury bringing? Don't know. It just, for the moment I walked into that ground, as typified by the first minute goal, things for me felt a bit flat. And personally, I just think we missed an opportunity of, I think the second round of the FA Cup, when we've done nothing in it for a long time, I think it's actually a big game, and I would normally always prioritise every league game, but I don't really think you can equate an FA Cup second round tie at home against in a very winnable game to, for instance, Carabao Cup. Although clearly neither of them are league games. For me, I thought that was a really important game. And I just think collectively, just didn't seem to get it for me. Don't know why.
Yeah, well, look, you can obviously after the event we can all level that, at the thing. But I think when you look at the game, we had the ball, we dominated the ball. I'm trying to hold back from saying we dominated Shrewsbury because we didn't create loads of chances.
I was going to say, I thought offensively we weren't great. They were in front most of the game, and then basically just sat back and said, "Come on to us," didn't they?
Yeah. But and again, ifs, buts, and maybes, don't tell you the story of anything.
No.
But take the three ridiculous mistakes out of the game, we win it comfortably 2-0, and everyone goes, "Do you know what? We've just controlled the game. Shrewsbury haven't had a kick. We've barely given them a chance, and we've comfortably won the game." You can look for all sorts of signs, and are we taking it seriously? Yes, of course we're going to be massively weakened when you take Dan Crowley, David McGoldrick, Macaulay Langstaff, Jody Jones out the starting 11, but they still controlled the game. They still controlled the game and shouldn't have had any problems in that game, barring the three, calamitous errors. So you've got to say then actually they've played okay. They've played okay to have the ball against a team from a division higher. Yes, we didn't have the real potent threat that we used to seeing. But again, the other side of the coin that we're sort of flipping about is he starts his full strength team and Macca pulls a hamstring and David McGoldrick gets injured, and people will be saying, well, why on earth are we playing them when it's a chance to maybe rest them? Look, I thought we would play. I thought maybe not Macca, maybe not Deeds. I thought Dan Crowley might have played because we've got a full week after the game, But bear in mind, we just had a long trip down to Wimbledon the week before. We'd had a game in the midweek, so we're not privy to knocks, niggles, and things like that for players who's maybe running a little bit on empty with all these red flags that they sort of talk about now. They've got the data and fitness things about when they're likely to pick up injuries. So look, I suppose you're right. At some point, if you lose a game, it's decision. If you lose a game, ultimately the manager, the head coach, has got to take some proportion of the blame because he picks the team, sets the tactics, and how we go about playing it. But I think Friday night was such an exceptional circumstances of the three goals that, like I say, you could have had Pep Guardiola managing us, but if the defenders make them mistakes, we still lose 3-2. So, I think that one particularly was just a calamity in terms of three more than three moments in the game probably, but the three that led to the goal. So, but the bigger picture is, yes, we are conceding far too many goals, and yes, we are conceding too many easy goals where we're in control of the football. We concede possession, and within a couple of passes, we are being scored against, and that has got to stop.
There was an interesting interview with Luke after the game, and he spoke about it was down to him to sort it out and find a way. And he was clearly certainly disappointed, some might say angry, and he was kind of questioning himself almost. How much more do you think he can do defensively to make us more robust and stronger with the existing group of players that we have? And I'm talking generically as a group.
Yeah.
How much more can he do?
Well,
And how much do you think we need to strengthen on January the 1st by bringing in new recruits?
yeah, I think it's plain to see. I think everyone's had a chance. It's not, we're 20 league games, 6 cup games, 26 games we've had this season. So everyone's, had a chance pretty much. And I think everybody that's seen Notts for any period of time would say, yes, we do need to strengthen defensively. You can't concede the number of goals we've conceded without saying, no, something needs to change. Something, and generally you're going to look at, that means bringing stronger personnel into the club. The other way you can affect it is obviously about how you set up and how you play. So, and I think after Friday, I think that's the first time I've sort of maybe picked up a little bit from Luke in his post-match interview that he was maybe questioning that with the players that we've got, can we play in League Two and against better teams in the way that he wants us to play? And given that it's not January, he can't bring new people into the building yet. He's got to find a way that with these players that stops us conceding these number of goals. Now, how he wants to go about that, and again, we can see too many goals, but that is part and parcel a little bit of how we play. It's the modern day football, passing out from the back. Man City, Spurs. I mean, look at all the goals in the Premier League. You've got all the top defenders, pretty much in England in the Premier League, and there's goals flying in left, right, and centre. So, the game is built towards more goals now. You can barely tackle, all that sort of thing. But you have got to find a way that stops conceding goals and the number of goals that Notts are conceding. So, I just wondered whether, for the first time in his post-match, whether he was just questioning, have I just got to change how we do things in our own defensive third of the pitch up until January, until he can get maybe one, maybe two better defenders, or not better defenders, more defensive-minded defenders into the team, because you've got to find that balance between, you've got to have defenders who can help you play with the ball if that's how you're going to play. But if by what we're doing at the minute, conceding 10 goals in the last 4 games, you can't continue with that. You cannot continue with that and go, well, let's just hope it puts itself right. Something has to happen. Now, like I say, that's players being better with the ball, being better on the ball, because as I say, 80% of the goals, we've had the ball. So it's not like teams are opening us up massively. It's just, of late, they're punishing our stupid mistakes and switching off, indecision, bad decision making, and putting us to the sword. And it highlights that weakness that we've got at the back, that susceptibility to concede goals.
Do you think Luke would countenance at all something that he's by and large, I'm trying to think, if any, maybe once or twice, go to a 4 or not?
He might, yeah. If he deems that's the way, that's the way that's going to tighten things up and still allow us to play and be a threat. You could have a 4-2-3-1, couldn't you? Or something along them lines. But again, whenever you make changes, and it's not about systems, really. I always say it's not about systems, because if you defend badly, it doesn't matter whether you have 6 defenders. If they'll defend badly, you're not going to stop conceding goals. You also don't want to upset what we do so well. And again, let's reiterate, we are 6th in the table. It's not a horror show by any stretch of the imagination, but we just concede too many goals. So there's got to be that. It will be addressed. They'll be working on it. I mean, let's not for 1 second imagine that somebody as thorough as Luke and Ryan Harley and the way they go about things are not trying to address it. But you get to this stage of the season, almost halfway through the season, and then you do have to ask questions of have we got the personnel to play how we want to play, at this level? Of course, they were good enough in the National League. That showed with the points and the goals that we conceded down there. But we're up a level, and things do get harder. And, You know, can you make that step consistently? And if you can't, then that's where the coaches have got to come in, analyse the games, analyse what they're seeing, and then go, right, what is our best way of maximising our pluses and our pros of what is our free-flowing attacking football, loads of goals, loads of threats, but also allying that to keeping it tight and keeping it, sound defensively, being switched on, when we do give the ball away, because inevitably you don't have the ball for 100% of the time, to make sure that just because we give the ball away doesn't mean we're then going to concede a goal. So it's not easy. It's never easy in football. Like I say, the game is always there to test you. The one thing I would say as well is, let's not forget that Notts, I don't know what the stats are, but on Friday night we had something like 75% possession of the ball. So that means you're only defending 25% of the time. So you've got less defending to do. Notts have top of the possession stats in League Two. So they're defending for less of the time in a game than any other team in the division. So in theory, we should be one of, if not the best defensive record, but we haven't. And them stats sort of counterbalance what you would think would happen. So to me, that says, right, we have to be in possession of the ball, because if we don't, we're susceptible to conceding. And we all know that. It's how you go about addressing it and changing something, be that personnel in team selection, be that the way you play, the style you play. You could go, right, okay, although we want to use the goalkeeper as a spare man and create overloads on the pitch, we've conceded too many goals. You go, I want to play in the opposition's half or 40 yards away from our goal. Once we get it to 40 yards away, then we look to play. But other than that, we keep it tight. Look, he will know what he wants to do. But again, it's always at the behest of players to be able to carry out the instructions and do them well enough.
Let's get a few thoughts from the flock. Dave Worley says those making the Howlers on Friday are regulars in most games. Rich Hawksworth, hi all, still in shock, but we are 1 point off second. Let's retain perspective. Ian G, we were mocked on the BBC highlight programme by the pundits. They even put the names against the players on the slow motion replays. I think my son said to me, there's some TikTok thing doing the rounds about a compilation of the goals. It's had 7.7 million views. Dear me. Well, I suppose at least it's good for the global brand, is it? I don't know. Dale Pikett, here is a stat for you, Stal. Evening all. Last season, we only conceded 52 in all competitions. So far, we have conceded 49 already. This defence is not a promotion-winning side. Luke Beardsley, I watched young Sanderson in the Youth Cup, and he really impressed me. Glad he got his chance and took it. As I said, got a little story I'll tell you in a moment on that one. Derek Flowers, I recently stood down as a steward at both grounds, I think he means Forest and Notts, after 39 years. Last 8 I was stood at the side of the away dugout at Notts. I used to say hello to Mark when he came down from the gantry. Notts have given me a half-season card. There you go. Well done. Gary Smithhurst, Luke Williams has never prioritised cup games in his time at the club. I think he misjudged the desire of the supporters to progress on Friday. No reason not to field a full-strength side. Baffling. Rich Hawksworth, the need for a tall centre-half, dominant in the air, is a complete myth. It is defending on the ground that is costing us. Decision-making, composure and pace. Chris B, there are certain players who have been top pros for us in the past few years, but just aren't up to this level. Feel we've been too sentimental in some of our decisions. David Skinner is obviously a man of good taste when it comes to books. I've bought yours, Paul, he says. And Kazar East Midlands today were very keen to show our defensive errors, but no mention of James Sanderson and his tremendous goal. Chris Gosling agreed. Progression over sentiment has to be the mantra for the second half of the season. AD Clark says, if we all buy Paul's book and block the Notts goal, the only way we'd keep a clean sheet. Division 1 attack and National League defending at the moment. Ian G says, Luke Williams was damned if he did and damned if he didn't, if any of our first choice attack had got an injury. Pythagorean, surely a Sunday game would have delivered a bigger crowd. On a positive note, no, Chris B. Gosling looked good and Austin was fantastic. Alex Young, not just defenders at fault with errors recently, 3 midfielders at fault at Wimbledon. Not so a very decent side this season, but possibly some are finding they're not as good as they might have thought. Neil Hornbuckle, the last few games, goals conceded isn't helped by our wing backs joining the attack as soon as we win the ball back, meaning the centre backs have to play through the middle or play a defence splitting ball. AD Clarksdale's thoughts about the amount of possession versus shots. Most game the opposition seem to have more shots. David Skinner's not happy. 15 English pounds for a paperback and not a picture in sight. When did a single sentence become a paragraph? They do in my book. However, young man, it was a ripping good read and I await your next tome. They are. He's half happy, David Skinner. Chris Gosling, defensively, we're getting worse as the season goes on. That is a far cry from adapting to this level. Fraser Dodds, teams know they can sit back and wait for us to make mistakes. They're happy for us to have possession. Most of our possession on Friday was passing it around the back line. Ian G. Notts versus Wrexham would have been tasty in the third round of the Cup. Rubes says, I really think we're putting too much pressure on the defence by passing it backwards all the time. We need to go forwards more. More to do with individual mistakes, says Jake, rather than the way we play, in my opinion. Dale Pikett, no game on the 6th of January as Sutton made it to the third round. That's quite correct, Dale. As I understand it, will now be a blank weekend for us. Ian B, been interested in a statistic on number of passes that actually go forward, suggest our possession figures are skewed as 80% of ours go back. Derek Flowers, Tipton must be pulling his hair out thinking, how am I not replacing any of those? Chris Gosling, 4-2-3-1 would mean you couldn't play Crowley, Didsey, Jones and the man in the same starting team. Fraser Dodds, Baldwin is a good defender, but is he exposed and seems to be feeling the pressure? Luke Williams needs to find a way to protect the back line. Luke Williams says Ian G said in the interview they train as a back 4 as well as a 3. Pash says we're 3 to 4 players away from being a top team for this level, but they have to invest in January or it will be a playoff push. Pythagorean agree with Stell. We had the second worst defensive stats in National League based on 30% when we did have possession. Martin Shipley, Adi Baldwin is in my view more than a good enough footballer at League 2. But, and it's a big but, his decision making can be poor and leads to him making mistakes. And so the list goes on. I'll have a break there to rest my voice. Stell, backline. Then we'll move on to young Sanderson. There would be a view among our recruitment, or on the face of it, in the terms of our recruitment, there is always, I guess, a priority attached to capability to play the ball with feet, technical ability. One thing I notice, and it's not an issue in the sense that, as Rich Hawksworth says, we've been in the top 6, top 7 all season, so it's not a major issue. But I sometimes look how many, when the ball goes into the box, how many first headers do we win in defence, and how many first headers do we win in attack? And we probably don't necessarily have, we're not quite as strong in that area as some other teams might like to be. We all know that the identikit 2 big centre halves, head it, all the rest of it. How important do you think should not relax, if they do, that kind of metric for the types of players they're looking at?
Yeah, look, everybody wants a 6'4" centre half who's got pace and is a great defender and chips well at the other end of the pitch, don't they? They're few and far between, certainly at League 2 level and certainly within a budget. And again, yeah, like I say, I think, we do probably need personnel to strengthen. With what Notts are asking them to do, I think they should just prioritise decent defenders first. Now, And again, what I'm going to come on to is probably going to counter argue my own sort of theory there. But a defender first, because what we're asking or what Luke Williams is asking the defenders to do with the ball is not particularly, it's not Glenn Hoddle-esque passing. It's just making the right angles at the right time to be available to play fairly simple passes. You know, Richard Brindley, Aidan Baldwin, okay, not so much Aidan Baldwin, Richard Brindley, Conor Rawlinson, Kyle Cameron are not given any sort of role and said, well, pick the ball up, beat 3 men, and then it's a 40-yard diag out to our winger. You know, it's, yes, play a diagonal if it's on, but otherwise you should have players with the way not to play, the fluidity of the system. You should always have a couple of options that might be back to Sam Slocum or Aidan Stoney. It might be inside to your other centre half, to Aidan Baldwin. It might be outside to an Aaron Neman or a Jody Jones, or into a John Bostock who's available in the middle of the park. All fairly simple passes. What is difficult to really get across is it's the organisation and the movement that really helps the way that Notts County play. Movement off the ball to give the man on the ball options to pass to when we're in possession. So if you don't get the movement, then the man on the ball has got to do a bit. He has got to hold the man off. He has got to be able to protect the ball for a bit until somebody offers him a solution. So the thing that Notts need, and it's not like there is no solution that we go, oh, get rid of Connell, Richard Brindley, Aidan Baldwin, any of them, and bring one other player in. It's a unit. A defence is a unit. Yes, it's a unit of 11. It's the whole team. But the defensive unit is that back 3, then with your wing backs, obviously, and then with your 1 or 2 deeper line midfield players as well. And it's being organised and being in sync, if you like, to make sure that there's options for the man on the ball, but we're also switched on that if we do give the ball away, we have got recovery. We are in position that, hold on, it's not as simple as, well, they've got the ball, one pass, they're in on goal. So that's the difficulty of it, because you could go out and get a really good defender, defensive-minded defender, but if you can't gel into the defence with the other units, the other personnel that are there, then it doesn't necessarily help your defence. You know, it's a very difficult one to actually understand, because we can all analyse Friday and see individual mistakes and go, well, he's done that wrong, he shouldn't have done that. That's easy. But when you see some of the other goals, it's not so easy, because nobody's made a glaring error, but somebody's maybe got the wrong starting position, or the gaps between the defence is too much, or the gaps to midfield is too much. The opposition will allow too much space. So it's very difficult, and it's why recruitment is never a straightforward process. You know, it's trying to identify better than what you have for within the budget that you are allowed. And of course, they've got all the football radar data and analysis and all that sort of stuff. But it's never just as simple as going, oh, we need a 6'4" defender, or somebody who can do the 100 metres in 10 seconds, or somebody who can play with the ball. You need a player. All professionals should have a bit of the ability to play with the ball, but it's just finding one that you think will complement those around them.
Alan Randall says, I find it unbelievable that the players we heralded as heroes in May are thought so little of by a section of our fan base. The team will evolve, but us fans need to take a look at ourselves too. Royston says, that's all good. We move on. Andy Eason, full bench on Friday, but no backup keeper again with Sam out. Send for Archie Mayer. Wayne Wilkins, by the sounds of it, I hope we get out of this relegation battle we're in. I like that one, Wayne. I don't know if you're in Barcelona, Germany, wherever you are at the moment, gallivanting around Europe. Andy Eason, did Dan Gosling do enough on Friday to suggest he might well stay beyond January? Personally, I think he did perform pretty well for his first start in ages. Abbott White, it's the loss of Palmer that's costing us. No one tracks back like him. Now, we're also, this is England calling to Montenegro, and we've got a little bonus for you tonight. We have a global fan base now, Stel, and I'm gonna before Dimitri says anything, we're going to give you a little quick general knowledge, and it's not been rehearsed. Stel, your starter for 10.
Oh, right, pressure on. Go on.
Pressure on. What is the capital of Montenegro? It's not easy, this one, by the way. I only know because I've been there with England. Go on.
I have not got a clue, is the honest answer.
Dimitri, educators.
Good evening. Good evening, and thank
Good
you, Paul.
evening.
Evening, Dimitri.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Stell, for this opportunity. And first of all, I would like to say sorry for my English. English is not my main language, as you know. So I will try to make my sentences short so you can understand me better. My wife actually says that I have an accent like some bad guy in some old action movie. So I will try. I will try to talk a little, and to listen to you guys. First of all, I would like to thank you, Paul, and you, Stel, for making us abroad to have a contact with the club in the best way possible. Of course, watching the Notts County, watching the games is most important. But these kind of things, this podcast is something that for us in Montenegro, especially for me, means a lot. I started following Notts in 2006, but didn't have a chance to watch regularly games. Maybe one or two games was broadcasted on TV channels here in Montenegro, like a match from Liverpool. Maybe you remember in 2013 League Cup. It was on extra time. Liverpool won, like a match against Manchester City and stuff like that. But from the last season, I got the chance to watch Notts County regularly through subscription of National League. Stel was not the commentary there. There was some commentaries on BT Sport. Now I follow. It's much better to follow now when I have you in the commentary in the commentary section.
Bless you.
So firstly, Dimitri, the capital of Montenegro is?
Yes, it's Podgorica. I'm from Podgorica. It's actually a half of Nottingham, maybe population of half of Nottingham. So it's a very small city. All Montenegro has about 500,000 people. So I think Nottingham metro area is about 1 million. So you can imagine.
Now, first things first, Dimitri, and it's great to have you on. And don't worry, as a few of our flock are saying, Wayne Wilkins, you're speaking better English than most of us on here, I'm sure, Dimitri, says Wayne Wilkins. Where does the Notts County link come in with you?
It started about 2006. My father is a big fan of football, and he played for professionally football. Actually, he came in the young generation of Red Star Belgrade. Maybe you heard it for Red Star Belgrade, of course.
I've seen them play. Yeah.
Yes, he played. He actually have offered a contract when he was young, but something got complicated and didn't follow through. So he played football for some local clubs here in Montenegro and in Macedonia. So he came. He loved Premier League a lot. When he finished his career, he translated that to me. And as I watched, it was fascinating for me how the clubs, if I can say smaller clubs, not Liverpool, Manchester, Arsenal, and Tottenham and stuff like that, have such a great followers, such a passionate followers. And I started reading about English football and find out about Notts County. And Notts County, like oldest professional football club, the place where football officially started. I mean, what can be better than that? And one trophy, FA Cup somewhere at the end of 19th century, that was like an epic for me. So then I find it connection with Partizan Belgrade. They are a friendly club, and Partizan take the shirts from Notts County, and everything about Notts County is like a football museum for me. You play in the stadium from 1910, so 100 and some years. Your fan base is decent, very nice, people are great, and then I start following like 1 or 2 matches per year to watch, and always watching on live score and on the club site, following what is happening in the club. Also, there was one guy, he's my friend, if I can say that, Martin Cooper from Nottingham. He translated me, he helped me and some of my friends here that are following Notts County to feel the atmosphere about the club and stuff, and everything was great until I started watching regularly from the last season. I think somewhere about 10 or 15 matches were passed from the last season National League, and then I watched regularly. Me and my friends came together here in my house, and my wife joined sometimes. Sometimes she said we are too loudy, so she doesn't like that, but we are following passionately.
It's very good. Stel, you and I were obviously at Wembley, and we have mixed views on social media here, Dimitri. It can be good and bad. And but I loved. This is where you first came to prominence with me. You did a lovely video, didn't you? Watching the Wembley game, and
Yes.
and there's you stomping around your living room during the penalties, isn't there?
Yes, yes. It was really. I didn't know that my wife was filming. I didn't know about that. But if I can be honest with you, Paul, almost every match looks like that. She just filmed that. It's every match is important, but that one, I was little afraid, if I can say, for that match, because I thought if we don't pass now, that the great things that are happening now in its county will collapse. I was afraid that Luke will go on, the players will go to some other clubs, and it's really hard to get out of the National League. So I think that was a huge moment. I think if we get a promotion this year, it will be great, but it will not be huge like that.
Now, the other thing I've noticed on your videos, Stel, you obviously are only allowed a cup of tea while you are commentating on the games. If you watch Dimitri's videos, right, there's a few of them. There's always a bottle of Jack Daniels on the corner of the table. How much Jack Daniels did you need to watch Friday night and the Wimbledon game, Dimitri? I presume you changed bottles, didn't you?
Yes, buttons are going very fast in the last couple of weeks. But actually, I wasn't able to watch FA Cup because here abroad there is not possible to watch. I have iFollow, and it's not possible to watch FA Cup games. But I watched the game against Wimbledon. There was two of my friends here, so it was three of us watching game, and it was not pleasant. But I don't want to be negative. Can you imagine just that? For example. Baldwin gave the goal in 96 minutes against Boreham Wood in the playoff match. What we'll be talking about now? Will we be National League talking about some other stuff? Not sure with what kind of stuff. And so I always think about that and come back and try to be positive. I think there is a lot of place for improvement. I'm not professional. I'm actually attorney at law, so I don't know anything professionally about football. I see that the defense can be better, but I think it's good to give that guys a chance. They got us here, so I think they deserve that, and I think that should be a part of Notts County tradition.
Well said, Dimitri. Stel, it is amazing, isn't it? It's one thing for Liverpool to have global fan bases, Manchester United and all the rest of it. But when we hear the stories of like Dimitri, and there are others, we'll be getting on the show, it's just quite incredible, really, the pull of Notts County and other these lower league clubs. It's all nooks and crannies across the globe, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you like say Montenegro there's Australia, isn't there? Americans. Audience all around the world. It's fantastic and great to hear the stories as well. And maybe I should start commentating with a bit of Jack Daniels right at the side. It might liven up the commentary, and it might take the edge off a little bit when we're defending like we were on Friday night. But yeah, it's great. Great to see people like Dimitri and everybody who's got a Notts County interest at heart and let's say fascinating stories of how they become involved with Notts. It shows what a worldwide game and a worldwide club that Notts is and the history that they've got.
Hey, here's a Montenegrin link, Dimitri. I'm not sure whether you better see my shirts behind me. Do you know the story of this one?
Yes, Mirko Vucinic, of course.
Yeah, so Mirko Vucinic is what? A Montenegrin.
Yes, he's Montenegrin. Yes, he played for Montenegrin national team, but he finished his career. He was one of the best backers in Montenegro.
So come on, here's a little teaser for you now. What's the link with this shirt?
Yes, this is from Juve, right?
Yeah.
Yes, from Juve. He played for Roma, for Juve.
Nearly. So Notts County opened Juventus' stadium.
Oh yes, I know. New 2012. Yes, it was a draw, right?
Yeah. That was his shirt on the night.
He played on that game. Yes.
So I managed, courtesy of Martin Allen, to acquire this shirt.
Great.
Great. Because all the Juventus players were told to keep their shirts from that game and give them to the museum. But Martin Allen, there was the manager at the time, and Lee Hughes managed to intercept a few, and I managed to get this one. So a lot of people ask me, what's my sort of favourite shirt? And in a way, it's not almost a not shirt, but this was a shirt because Vucinic was making his debut that night for Juventus.
Yes, great, really great.
Useless bit of information. Now then, obviously, we can't remember when we were 16 or 17. I certainly can't. Stell. So we had a young lad, Dimitri, on Friday night, James Sanderson, who no one had heard of. And I want to take you back to Tuesday night when I was sat in the stand watching Crawley. I was talking to one of my mates, I've got a few, not many, in front of me, and with his son and a young lad that was next to him. And this young lad disappeared at half time. And Paul Marriott is his name. He turned around to me and said, "Hey, that lad," he said, "is training with Notts." I says, "Is he?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "He plays with my son's team. He played for Arnold Town under 16s last year." I says, "Oh, right." He said, "Yeah, he's been training with them for 3 or 4 weeks in the first team. And he reckons he's going to be on the bench on Friday night." You know, I'm thinking, hey, what's the guy on here? He says, no, he reckons he's going to play and he might get on for 20 minutes. Be stupid, you know. I don't fall for that one. Of course, James Sanderson if you see him on the team sheet, he was 16 on Tuesday. He turned 17 on Thursday. He's on the bench. He comes off the bench, and within 2 minutes, he scored a goal. Now, Stell, were you anywhere near a first team when you were 17 years old and 1 day? And can you remember, how old were you when you scored your first senior goal?
You should have maybe asked me this off air because I'm going to seem like a Tommy Topper now. I scored my first goal for Derby 2 days before my 17th birthday at Middlesbrough.
You didn't?
Yeah. So I beat him by 3 days, but I didn't score it in the FA Cup. And no matter what, to come in from nowhere, because we saw his name on the team sheet and we quite honestly didn't have a clue who he was and where he played. So Adam had to do a little bit of scurrying around and a little bit of research and asking a few questions. But it is an unbelievable achievement for him. We always say about when you get a chance to play, it doesn't matter what age you are, but when you get a chance to play, it's a chance to give the manager a nudge to perform. That this is what you want to do. You want to be a footballer, so you want to be on the pitch and you want to play. It doesn't matter whether you're 16, 17, 35, 36. And it was just a fantastic moment, because I'm sure that is one thing that anybody, and even Dimitri, following him since 2006, we haven't had too many lads come up through the ranks, if you like, young lads coming into the first team. And so to see them, and again, there's one thing that I will say about if we're criticising team selection for the cups, James Sanderson doesn't get on the bench. If Notts play their strongest team Friday night, arguably, I know there was 9 subs, but arguably James Sanderson doesn't even get on the bench. So he wouldn't have his goal. He wouldn't have that moment that you can never take off him. And it was a fantastic moment. Really pleased for him. I know Luke Williams was a little bit critical about him wearing the Jack Grealish-like socks. He had to have a word with him about that. But fair play to him. He's come on. He's not been overawed by it. He gets a chance. One shot. He could have blazed it. He could have panicked. But he didn't. Kept it on target. Scored a goal. And you can never, ever take that away from him. And that's a fantastic start. And hopefully that will give him the belief and confidence to go on and say, do you know what? I want a bit more of that. A bit more of a taste of that first team action. He might have to be patient. He probably will have to be patient, because as we know that there are others to come in and there are players sort of well ahead of him at the minute. But you can't do any more than that. Be given 15, 20 minutes in a game and come on, score a goal and make an introduction like that. And all of a sudden, it's another name that people will be looking out for. It's great for Notts. Great to have young lads coming through.
Yeah, and I think part of the backstop to that story was, as I understand it, was that James was in Notts' academy from sort of like the age of 8 or 9 through to about 12 or 13. And of course, then when Notts had to close the academy when they dropped out of the league, he's then, because there isn't academies, he effectively released. And then I think they brought him back towards the start of this season. And as Luke mentioned in his post-game interview. They saw him and thought, oh, we'll train with the first team a little bit, and we're very impressed with how quickly he's kind of settled into that. So it's kind of been a bit of a fast track this season. Dimitri, how close were you to playing professional football when you were 16?
Not really. My father, as a professional football player, was pushing me, but I was total anti-talent. And my mother pushing me to law school, my father pushed me to football, and then my mother was right, I guess, because I didn't have a chance in football. But we played actually like a kids. We played a couple times of like amateur football, like 6-on-6. On some small goals a couple times a week for 4 or 5 years. We had some good tradition there, and once we stopped playing, it's never happened again. So I didn't play football for surely 2 or 3 years.
Okay. Did you say you went to law school?
Yes, I finished law school, and I'm attorney at law here in Podgorica, Montenegro.
Very good. Very good. Now, there are links. I'm going back to the Jurassic era. So Radi Avramovic, in the team in the late 70s, early 80s that got to the top flight of English football, he played for a Yugoslavian team, Rijeka, and he was goalkeeper who went to law school, got a law degree, and he was spotted by our late manager, Jimmy Cyril, playing in Belgrade against Red Star Belgrade. And on the basis of that, which was very rare in those days, Radi was signed by Notts and was probably, I hope Steve Cherry's not listening, he won't be happy. I would say the best goalkeeper I've seen for Notts County ever. But so he was Yugoslav. So there are 1 or 2 links. Talking of which, Stell, Walsall, we better get that one in before we wrap up. I think one of Luke's trademarks has been, despite me saying to you a few weeks ago that I wouldn't be surprised if we went on a 4 or 5 game run without winning, one of his real hallmarks has been when we have lost, he's kind of bounced straight back. Would you be expecting that on Saturday without the kiss of death in a home fixture? That'll be our 4th home game in 5, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course I would. At home, you've got to back Notts. Notts of points per game, Notts have got the best record at home in the league this season. So for all the previous 50 minutes we were speaking about maybe changing things, I wouldn't look to change too much for Saturday. Yes, tighten up defensively, not give soft goals away, of course. But at home, Notts have been phenomenal. So with a home game, I would expect Notts to come out wanting to right the disappointment of Friday night. And at home, I think, is it 2, so I had a look earlier, this is not my maths, but we're 2.4 points per game, on a game-by-game basis at home, best in the division. So you wouldn't change it. Again, wherever we want to talk about, things can improve and things can always be improved. I'm very, very much agree with Dimitri when he comes on and says, but let's put things in perspective and be positive about what is good. And what is good is our home form, and keep that going. Don't change. Don't change too much. Yes, you can always push levels. You can always look to improve on anything. But, if it's not broken, don't change it. It don't need fixing. So, look, the problems we have, we know about. But at home against Walsall, you've got to put Notts as favourites. And you're right. Whenever they've had a setback, they do generally bounce back. And I will remind you all season that I did disagree with you, didn't I, when you said they go 4 or 5 games without a win. I say they won't. So we'll have a drink on that at the end of the season.
Hey, a large Jack Daniels. Have you got another bottle of Jack Daniels lined up for Saturday for you and your mates, Dimitri?
We are coming together again on Saturday at my home. That is now become a tradition when we have iFollow and can watch every game. So I must say to you guys, I hope that we will come. For sure, I will next. I think in a couple of months. I'm in process of getting British visa, so it's a little complicated bureaucratic procedure, but I think it won't be a problem. So I expect I will come with a couple of friends, my wife maybe. To watch, and I hope to meet you guys. And I want to know everybody in England, but especially Notts County fans, for me, how lucky you are to have that ritual. We are hanging out here in my home, but you go out, drink beers with your friends, with your family, go to stadium, watch the match, then afterwards go to some lunch or something. It's great. It's a great tradition. I think only England has something like that, and I would like to be a part of that sometimes with you.
We look forward to seeing you, Dimitri, and rest assured there'll be plenty of our flock offering to buy you a drink, bite to eat, and all the rest of it.
Thank you.
I think you can get flights. Is it direct from Podgorica into?
Yes, it has to London.
Stansted or somewhere.
Yes, it has to London and to Manchester. So it's possible. Then I can go by train or something. It will be okay. It will be okay. Just to get the visa, it will be okay. I will come definitely.
It's a country we know very little about. Obviously, it's a new country, Dimitri, but I've only been there because England played there in a European qualifier, probably about 12 years ago. It was 2-2. It was 2-2. Yeah, and I like Podgorica. It was nice, but it's not necessarily a place many British people would have been to.
No, actually, I know one of my clients, some British couple that are now in pension. Is it said like that? They're retired.
Yes,
they're retired from their professional career. So they sold their flat in London in some basement, and down they live in Boka Kotorska Bay in some beautiful place in Tivat. So Podgorica is actually in the middle of Montenegro, capital city, but the most beautiful is the sea. Places like Perast, Kotor is in UNESCO heritage site and stuff like that. So it's a tourist country, and actually it's a very old one. But we were in some how I can say Commonwealth with some other countries here, part of Yugoslavia, and then 2006 then regain our independence, and now we are on our own.
Very good. Very good. Stel, yes. I know you're a bit of a gallivanter and a global, trotter off to here, there, and everywhere. You need to get Montenegro. Dimitri will give you a few travel tips. Get yourself
What's
over
the weather
there.
like? What's the weather like? Because it's tipping it down back here.
It's almost always sunny. Not now in this couple of months, but it has a lot of sunny days. It's a tourist country, so like Mediterranean climate.
I love this one from Adi Clark. Adi says, Dimitri, when you come to England, bring your boots. You might get a game playing in defence.
That's the only place I played, so I would like to try.
Alan Cotty, obviously of a certain vintage. Radi Avramovich was great. What about Barry Watling and his excellent penalty saving record back in the early 70s, if I remember correctly? That is absolutely true. Pythagoras says, and I'm going to apologise for the pronunciation here, Dimitri. He's been to, I'll spell it, Kotor. Kotor?
Yes, Kotor. Yes,
Kotor. He's been there. Andy Easom, we should get a pre-season tour sorted for July in Montenegro. That would be good, wouldn't it?
Oh, that would be beautiful.
Stel, last words with you. Clearly, given that you spoke about no need to change us, you'll be going for it. So you would say no need to make any changes from the cup team for Saturday against Walsall. Same team, yeah?
No, I would bring Macca. Dan Crowley, David McGoldrick, Jody back in. We would go back to what I think. Obviously Carl Cameron back in at the back. I think he'll go back to what we class as his league team, if you like. But again, he might be tempted. He might be tempted to just look at the personnel in the back three. But I think again, because the home record is so good, and obviously we are at home, I don't think he'll be sweating too much about changing the formation or the way we go about it. He'll obviously be wanting the players to work on, look, we've got to be sharper, look after the ball better, take care of the pillars, we used to say, and be switched on for when we do concede possession, be a little bit sharper. And just to go back to a point that was made about 25 minutes ago, that whoever made the comment about, let's not forget we haven't got Matty Palmer as well. And that will put a little bit of extra pressure on the defence because, yeah, absolutely right. Whoever that was that said about it, he tracked back and broke up a lot of the opposition's attacks as well. So, and again, you go back into League Two, anybody who misses a key player in the middle of the park is going to suffer, and we will suffer for not having him. So everyone else has got to step up. But yeah, I'm confident. I think we'll get the job done on Saturday, and then hopefully the world will seem a little bit rosier place.
Would you keep Sanderson on the bench?
Ooh,
He wouldn't.
Possibly, because well, A, we're not overloaded with attacking players.
No, that's why I asked the question.
Attacking options, and I think it sends a really good message. I think that sends a really good message. You've come on, you've had 15 minutes. Would I stick him on? It depends how the game goes. But also, as often happens as well when you're a young player, like I say, he's got to be patient. So he can't be expecting to be on the bench. He's come on, he's had his cameo, he's scored a goal. Brilliant. Now he's got to go away and work hard and be consistent and keep reminding Luke Williams, look, I'm not just a 17-year-old who wants to come on, score a goal and you'll not see me again. I'm going to keep showing you in training how hard I work, taking it all in to improve as a player. And I want to be in the first team. Age is never or should never be a barrier to being in the first team. If you're good enough, you'll get in. And that's the same no matter what age you are. Somebody mentioned about Ollie Tipton. If there's a reason he's not been picked, is obviously Luke Williams doesn't think he's good enough to displace those that are ahead of him. No manager picks a team that isn't what they think the best team to win a game. So, you've got to work hard. But with 7 subs, I would be tempted to go, go on, son. You can stay on there, get a taste of a league game. Whether he comes on, whether he gets involved, don't know. But I think it'd be good experience for him. And it will show other young lads that, hey, the likes of Charlie Gill, who probably ahead of him, really, 2 months ago, the likes of, but come on, you do a job, you can stay involved. Given that, we have got a lot of the senior players back and available, and I imagine that the subs bench will be strong anyway Saturday. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not on there, but I would be. I don't see why not.
Dimitri, we are about to say goodbye. So delighted you could join us. Thank you so much for sharing some of your thoughts from afar. And rest assured now, you are, when you're able to come over here, let everybody know, and you will have plenty of people from our flock looking forward to meeting you. The navigation is a big place that a lot of the fans go to, which is a pub. You mentioned the history. It's well over 100 years old, the building, and that's like that's a place where a lot of the fans congregate. And there's plenty of beer, and I'm sure you can get a large Jack Daniels and Coke as well.
Would love that. Yes, thank you, Paul. And once again, a massive thank you to Stall and to you for everything that you're doing for Notts County. I understand that your work is very important, even for Notts County fans in Nottingham. But for us abroad, it's crucial. It's great.
Thank you.
That's very kind. Good night to Podgorica. Stel, thank you as always.
No problem.
And we will convene again next week when hopefully we are back to winning ways and the FA Cup exit will be a thing of the past. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Cheers.